Okay, get this. What if a sacred text, a really important one, was missing a key piece? And not because a page got ripped out or lost to time. No, what if that missing piece had to be brought back, literally from the land of the dead? Well, that is the wild story we're diving into. So let's set the stage. We're about to jump into a story that's, well, it's pretty unbelievable. It really blurs the line between life and death and what we think of as ultimate truth. And it all kicks off with just one monk. But it ends with a revelation that changes, well, pretty much everything. And that really is the heart of it, isn't it? Could a sacred text really have a missing piece that was recovered from the underworld? I mean, it sounds like something straight out of a movie or a fantasy novel. But believe it or not, this is a foundational story for understanding one of Buddhism's most profound texts. So, how in the world did this happen? All right, so let's travel back in time. We're in 9th century China during the Tang Dynasty, and I want you to meet our main character, a monk named Yu. This guy's entire life was dedicated to just one thing, reciting the Diamond Sutra. He chanted it day in and day out. He knew it by heart, every single word, every line. Or at least, that's what he thought. So here's where the story just goes off the rails, in the best way possible. After this whole life of devotion, Yu dies. He arrives in the underworld and finds himself face to face with the big boss, King Yama. And King Yama asks him to recite the sutra from memory. Yu does it, no problem. But when he's finished, King Yama drops a total bombshell. You're missing a part. And then, and this is the craziest part, he sends the monk's soul back to the world of the living with one single epic mission: find the complete version and share it with everyone. And this wasn't some vague, go find the magic scroll kind of quest. Oh no, King Yama gave him a pin on a map. He said, go to Zhongli Temple. The real version, the complete text, is carved right into the stone there. Can you even imagine being sent back from the dead with homework like that? So this all leads to the big question, right? What on earth was in this missing passage? Why was it so unbelievably important that a soul had to be sent back from the underworld just to reveal it? Well, the answer isn't just a couple of forgotten words. It's a massive paradox that sits right at the very heart of the Diamond Sutra. Okay, let's dive into the verses themselves, because what Yu brought back presents two seriously mind-bending ideas. One is about the nature of teaching itself, and the other is about the nature of being. All right, here it is, the first part of this crazy paradox that our monk was sent back to deliver. Quote, if anyone says the Buddha has taught the Dharma, they slander the Buddha. Now, wait a second, hold on. Slander the Buddha for teaching? Isn't teaching what the Buddha is, famous for? Yeah, exactly. It seems like a total contradiction. The Buddha gave thousands of sermons. I mean, his words are the foundation of a spiritual path for millions of people. And yet, this core text, this missing piece, insists that if you think he taught some kind of fixed, unchanging law, you have completely and fundamentally missed the entire point. Okay, so how do we even begin to wrap our heads around that? How can you teach by not teaching? Let's try to break this down. So here you can really see the central conflict. On one side, you've got the common idea, right? The Buddha spoke words, and those words are the Dharma, the ultimate truth, the law. Simple. But the sutra's idea, the one we're unpacking here, is way more subtle. It says, nope, the spoken words themselves, they don't have any fixed substance. They are not the truth. The classic analogy for this, and it's a great one, is a finger pointing at the moon. The Buddha's words, all the verses in a sutra, which is a sacred text, they're the finger. They're just a pointer, a guide, showing you the direction. But if you stare at the finger, you're never going to see the moon. The words point to the truth, but they are not the truth itself. Big difference. And that's the absolute crucial point here. To cling to the literal words, to believe they are the final concrete law, that's the big misunderstanding. And that's why the language is so strong. It's not just a simple mistake. The sutra calls it a slander, because it takes this profound, living, dynamic truth and shrinks it down into a static set of rules. Okay, so that's paradox number one. Deep breath. Now let's move on to the second one, because it builds right on top of this. This next part is all about who could possibly understand such a radical idea. So after hearing all this, the Buddha's top disciple, a guy named Subhūti, basically asks the question that I'm sure is on all of our minds. He says, look, this is really, really difficult stuff. Is anyone, generations from now actually going to be able to believe this? It's such a human and relatable question, right? And here's the Buddha's reply. And get ready because it's another one of these seemingly impossible riddles. He says, Subhūti, the people who can believe this, they are not sentient beings and they are not sentient beings. Okay, what on earth could that possibly mean? All right, let's try to unpack this logic step by step because it's a doozy. So, first, the Buddha uses the normal, everyday label. He calls these future believers sentient beings. Simple enough. But then, step 2, he says they are not beings. Why? Because they've let go of this fixed idea of having a separate, solid self. But then, and this is so important, step 3, they are also not non-beings. This means they haven't just swapped out their old label for a new, shiny one like I am an enlightened one. So what's the conclusion? The term sentient being is just a name. That's it. It's a convenient label for something that you can't really pin down with a simple category. Okay, let's bring it all home. Let's put these pieces together. What is the great secret that King Yama sent a monk all the way back from the underworld just to reveal? Well, the secret is this. True, genuine understanding belongs only to those who can use words and concepts without getting trapped by them. It's for the people who can see that all these labels we use, teacher, student, self, even sentient being, they're just pointers. They're the finger, and they are not the moon. Now, after all that heavy, complex philosophy, check this out. The great Zen master Yebuto commented on this very passage with this incredibly simple statement. He just said, "Fire is hot, the wind moves, water is wet, the earth is solid." At first glance, you might think, what does that have to do with anything? But this is the final, brilliant piece of the puzzle. This right here is the profound punchline of the whole thing. After you go through the process of deconstructing all the concepts, after you see through the illusion of the labels, you don't just disappear into some abstract void. No, you land right back here, in reality, but you experience it directly, without a filter. Fire is just hot. The wind just moves. A mountain is just a mountain again. And all of this brings us full circle, right back to our monk, Yang Yu. The passage he brought back from the underworld became legendary. It was known as the part added by the Zen master of the underworld. And because of that story, these verses were seen as the master key to unlocking the entire sutra. It also started the whole tradition of reciting the Diamond Sutra for those who have passed away, because people believed it held a special kind of power in the court of King Yama. So, let's end with this thought. The story of the missing verses. It's more than just a cool ancient tale. It's really a challenge for us, right here, right now. It's asking us to look at all the labels we stick on ourselves, on other people, and on the world all around us, and just wonder, what truths are hiding right behind them? What might we see if, even for just a moment, we could look beyond the words